No matter how hard it is, one has to go miles to meet the one they love. This girl also had a hard time coming all the way, but this woman puts a condition on whether she wants to meet him. She'll have to deal with some friends first. The girl doesn't seem to be scared of anyone, but she wants to see him, and as for the woman's friends, she promises her that they'll be finished in 3 minutes. The woman agrees to cut in at the 3-minute mark, but now she wants to take the life of the white-haired girl. The guards try to hold her up, but she warns them that they shouldn't touch her if they really want to live for a second longer. One of the guards thinks that she's cute as the girl tries to act strong, but the very next moment that guard is destroyed, the rest of the thirsty creatures are ready to pounce on the girl. A decade ago, humans who could turn into vampires began to appear. They successfully hid their identities, spread fear all around, and murdered left and right. This girl is going to turn this hell back into what it used to be, a happy world. For the person she loved, 1 life was nothing, she could give him 10 lifetimes. When the world is sleeping, some creatures tend to be awake. A cat is seen licking its paws, and it is suddenly taken back by a dark aura that passes by. Hang on, it's a girl. After jumping and leaping over huge buildings, she finally reaches her home. It looks like she was searching for something and wondered where she kept it. She finally finds it among her clothes. It's a weird crown that looks like it's made of thorns. This girl knows that she's the sloppiest person in this neighborhood, and she tends to transform like this when she gets extremely emotional. But thankfully, she's able to calm herself down with the help of this crown of thorns. Park Hae-in seems to remind herself to carry this crown wherever she goes. If she gets caught, she won't be able to go to school or do anything in the future. It wasn't easy for her to live like this, where she has to avoid humans and hide her real appearance. Incidents like this keep happening again and again. But Park Hae-in just wants to live like a normal human being. The next day at school, Park Hae-in is talking to her professor. The professor had seen her studying continuously and was concerned about her. Professor Park Dong-ju is an extremely sincere teacher, and this is his first year as a professor. He was a legend as a student and worked hard to pay off his tuition. Apparently, he'll be a dad next month. Park Hae-in really respected him, and she made up her mind to live diligently like Professor Dong-ju. After class, Hae-in meets her friends, who seemed worried about her as she had bumped into a vampire. Of course, she was alright. The guy next to her blames their Sunbi because he had left Hae-in alone and ran away. The girl next to Hae-in is in the classic mood for scaring the shit out of them in the broad daylight, and tells them that people say that there is 1 vampire for every 10,000 people. She thinks it's crazy as there could be at least 2 at their school. She gets scared about her thoughts, and the boy gets goosebumps. The girl also wonders what they would do if there was 1 in their major. Park Hae-in wants to just run away from this discussion. She somehow excuses herself, telling them that she is suffering from indigestion. On the way, Hae-in hears people discussing about the Busan incident, and she also hears them cursing the whole vampire clan. She knows they are monsters, and she also knows that she can't be friends with humans. When Park Hae-in was small, she used to immerse herself in picture books, and she prayed every day to get a friend. But she wondered if that prayer was ever heard. Soon she met a boy who had similar tastes in picture books. Hae-in told him that she didn't go to school, and he envied her. This boy didn't have any friends either. They started spending time together every day, and whenever Hae-in was with him, she would forget that she was a vampire. But as time passed, her happiness didn't last for long. For some reason, he started avoiding her, but she wanted to help him out. One day, Hae-in saw her oppa getting bullied, and she used her power to save him. Little did she know that he would get scared and run away forever. Later that day, one of the infamous Sunbi returned to school. He was now even ruder, and there were a lot of rumors about him misbehaving with his juniors for money. When the boy takes a brief glance at him, he feels like this guy looks sick. This infamous psycho guy seems to be extremely thirsty, and on his way, he meets some of his juniors. His juniors greet him, but he feels that they are teasing him for still being at school. He ignores them and walks away. This guy doesn't need anything because he has got a bomb-ass gift. But when Byung-soo meets Dong-ju, he realizes that life is not fair. He gets jealous when he learns that Dong-ju is well settled in life. Byung-soo knew his life was pathetic, and at that very moment he decided to make Dong-ju pay for it by killing him. The news spreads all over like wildfire, and the students are terrified. They have to attend a meeting, so they head to room number 1002 in the Gwanggi-do building. It seems like someone is waiting passionately to greet the students. When Byung-soo was almost 20, his mother sent him out to work, followed by which his boss threatened to fire him, and so he got a brilliant idea to stop people from calling him trash. His idea was to fucking kill everyone else. Here, the students gather for the meeting. Hae-in's friends are unable to spot Hae-in, and the boy's mask is also not to be seen. Byung-soo wants to have a great meeting with these kids, and he wants to show them what happens when they mess with trash. He gets ready and barges into the room. Surprisingly, the room was empty, and he wonders what the fuck happened and where everyone was. On the podium, he finds a note saying that the meeting is at the Gunya building. The actual meeting begins after the venue is reconfirmed. At the Gunya building, which is now a demolition site, there was no way they'd have a department meeting here. Byung-soo soon spots a girl with a mask on. She tells him that he shouldn't be worried about who she is, and she directly asks him why he killed the professor. Byung-soo tells her how Park Dong-ji bragged about being a successful person in life. He refers to the professor calling him a pig, and this guy didn't care about any shit regarding him. So this was the only reason why Byung-soo had killed the professor. He just ripped a hardworking person apart to satisfy his ego. People like him are the reason why the world is a scary place and there's no actual peace. She wonders why these innocent people have to live in fear. The deal was simple. The girl asked Byung-soo to turn himself in, beg for forgiveness, and compensate the professor's family. Without any warning, Byung-soo attacks the girl, and his intentions are to kill. For a moment, he even thought he was invincible. But no, that punch never really worked on her. He had never seen something so anomalous, and he stood there wondering what the fuck happened. But he was sure it was a full impact one. Byung-soo realizes that this girl is a vampire too. He begins to question her and asks her to take off her mask. He knew that she would be fucked up if she got caught. Byung-soo continues to pester her to reveal her face. She tells him he is misunderstanding something, and the reason she's keeping her mask on is for his sake, because if he knew her identity she'll have to kill him. Byung-soo once again brags about being more powerful than her and attacks her for the second time. Drinking one person's blood gives about twice the strength, and the amount of strength that one gains depends upon their absorption rate. Byung-soo seems to be satisfied this time. He finally gets that feeling of the flesh being ripped apart and the bones being shattered into pieces. He reminisces about the day when he was forcefully fed a vampire's blood. Usually, the lifespan of a mixed blood vampire is only 5 years, but one can get lucky if they join the family of a lion. In Byung-soo's case, he woke up in 2 damn days, and he was a lot more demented than the others. When Byung-soo thought that he had finally hit this bitch, the girl stood there perfectly fine, waiting for him to wind up his circus. Something was definitely wrong because he had felt that attack connect. Of course, he had to feel it because his hands were wrecked up. The moment he looks at his hands, pain takes over. He writhes like a worm on the ground. Byung-soo is experiencing the pain, which is much less than what the professor had experienced, and even less than that what the professor's family will continue to suffer more than this for the rest of their lives. The girl wonders how he could so easily kill a friend, and he reveals that he was just jealous. Byung-soo knew he was crazy and cried it all out, but he doesn't really regret killing Park Dong-ji. There's a reason why he'll be nothing but mere trash. Park Hae-in ultimately reveals her face, and now it's time for Byung-soo to die. And Hae-in wants to make sure that he won't be able to regenerate. She gets a grip on his hands and flings him off like a cockroach. He remembers how others warned him about meeting the deadly white-haired vampire. Park Hae-in beats the shit out of him, and eventually he agrees to compensate the professor's family. Good, there was a way he could compensate, so he'll need to just die. Hae-in completely destroys Byung-soo, and while killing him, she remembers about the little boy who was once her friend. She sighs and leaves the place. The next day, the investigation team seem to be in a state of turmoil. The scenario is a total chaos. The senior officer asks his subordinate for details about any extracted CCTV footage and witnesses. There were 2 students, but they were ruled out because they had alibis. The senior officer kicks his junior and declares that he won't get dinner today as he couldn't find anything useful on site. This guy doesn't really like working with him. Meanwhile, a tall and handsome guy enters the scenario, and he's Hwang Yoon-tae, the team leader. He appreciates the work of his junior mate and asks him for more details. The senior mate is instantly annoyed by Hwang Yoon-tae, and he tries to shoo him off. Yoon-tae gets a hold of his hand and notices a ridiculously expensive watch. He smells a strange cologne from the watch, and he asks the senior guy whether the store didn't adjust the wristband before selling the product, even though it's an expensive brand. Moreover, the time was set according to the time in Russia. It was exciting to note that a big black market drug dealer just got out of prison and was sent back to his country. Though Yoon-tae wasn't aware that people were still tacky enough to receive watches nowadays, the senior guy is shocked, but Hwang Yoon-tae tells him to relax as it was only a speculation. He then warns him to be polite, as they are all co-workers. The junior mate already admires Inspector Hwang Yoon-tae. He was an early graduate with a genius-like memory, and he has also set a record for arresting vampires. In addition, he even won the highest national medal, so people call him the vampire hunting ghost. Hwang Yunti enters the crime scene and gets to know about the details. He clearly notices that this wasn't a fight. It was completely one-sided with no chance of survival for the victim. The very next day, almost everyone in the school knew about the Gunya building murder case. A student council started a campaign to find out more about the hidden vampire. Park Hae-in finally decides to be more careful from now on. While discussing about yesterday with her friends, someone calls out to Hae-in. She is shocked to see him again. Hwang Yunti animatedly introduces himself, and she concludes that he's a detective. Bingo, he was here to take care of her. Yunti decides to talk while having some food. While walking down the campus, this guy looks like he's just walked out of a domineering boss drama because he's all tall, charming, and so handsome. Hae-in can't hide her curiosity and asks him what they do to a vampire after catching it. Hwang Yunti elucidates how a vampire's weakness is their heart and that stabbing or shooting won't kill them. He explains how he completely exposes their hearts, brutally hangs them on a noose with high-voltage electricity running through them, and then throws them in a furnace that's over 2000 degrees Celsius. Park Hae-in can really imagine things well and is terrified to the core. Hwang Yunti tells her that he wanted to go back in time to a time 10 years ago when he could loudly drink the night away and go on a date drinking near the Han River. He looks at Hae-in and swears that he'll get rid of all the vampires. Hwang Yunti orders a table full of food, and he had totally forgotten that there were other pork dishes too. On the contrary, Hae-in only orders a kimbap. They began to dig in, but Hae-in just can't get used to this, no matter how many times she smells it. All of a sudden, Yunti cuts his hand while cutting the meat, and now he's bleeding. Damn, the blood was oozing out, and Hae-in tried to resist herself. Hwang Yunti sucks off the blood from his hand and observes Park Hae-in carefully. She knows that this man is testing her on purpose. He apologizes for showing her blood during their mealtime and tells her to eat before the food gets cold. When Hae-in doesn't respond, he asks her what's wrong and questions her if she is a person who can't eat things like this. Park Hae-in is taken back when she hears Hwang Yunti talking about some weird shit. There's no such Korean who doesn't like kimbap. Yunti directly tells her that there could be one if that one was a vampire. Hae-in's heart skips a beat, and she wonders how he knew that she was a vampire. She couldn't even leave, or else everything that Yunti was suspicious about would be proven to be true. Hae-in picks up her chopsticks and starts eating quickly. She tells Hwang Yunti that she just couldn't help herself, and the fake appreciation ceremony for the kimbap begins. Later, Hae-in is seen throwing up in the toilet. She thought she would die as it was so hard trying to keep the food down. Thankfully, nothing happened, so she prays to God to just help her out a teensy bit. Hae-in swears that she'll live a quiet life henceforth. Meanwhile, Hwang Yunti spots Hae-in, and they meet again. God seems to be busy as he couldn't help Hae-in today, and she's never going to attend mass again. Hwang Yunti tells her that he was just roaming around and that their meeting must totally depend on fate. Who on earth says shit like the term fate? Damn fate. Hae-in tells him that it's just a pure coincidence. They talk a bit more about the buns that she's carrying, and she tries to show that she's taking them for her dongsangs because they love bread. Hae-in walks away from him, and it's finally a happy goodbye. The campus was in complete pandemonium as the student association had decided to literally cut every student with a sharp blade to see if they could heal faster. They tell the other students to just think of it as a noble deed, so everyone can enjoy their student life in peace. Some of the students seem to agree with them, whereas the others thought of it as a fucking crazy idea and rejected it. Park Hae-in arrives at the scene, and she can't help sighing, fuck. She wondered if it was her funeral today. As soon as she wants to leave, Hwang Yunti grabs her hand and drags her along. He wants to get her out of here, but the boys from the Students' Association stop him. They promise that they won't hurt anyone and that they will also provide immediate treatment. But when Yunti and Hae-in insist on leaving, they start suspecting them. The students forcefully take her hand, and Hae-in knows that everything's over now. But when they pull up her sleeve, they realize that she has already done this anti-vampire test. Hae-in realizes what Hwang Yunti is doing and quickly decides to play along. One of the students came forward, and now this guy wants to confirm it since he hasn't seen it with his own eyes. He tries to grab her hand, but Yunti stops him. This guy was definitely devoted to his work, but his dreams of working hard were shattered when Hwang Yunti showed him his police identification card. He even offers that passionate guy to join them in the investigation. And that's how both of them finally get away from there. Later at night, Park Hae-in can't stop thinking about what happened earlier as it was really scary. She looks at Hwang Yunti's text and wonders if something's wrong with him and his emotions. Park Yeram asks her Unnai if she's texting her boyfriend, and Park Yunsu feels their hesitation. Haein tells them to go to sleep and scolds them for talking like adults. Park Haein knows that this guy isn't like an average person, and she wasn't sure, but she doesn't think that Hwang Yunti is a bad guy. Hwang Yunti continuously glares at his phone. It was difficult for him to believe that he met Park Haein like this, who's a pureblood vampire. Outside the church, a bald man screams and insists on bringing out the priest. At this point, there was no turning back, as this was the last place they needed to deal with. The priest enters the scenario, and man, this guy is really cool. He looks more like a gangster with a cigarette in one hand and a thick wooden stick in another. Damn, he also had a bag full of soju bottles. The bald guy suggests that the priest should sign these papers when he's being nice, and he warns him that he won't be easy on him later on just because he's a priest. The priest seems to accept his challenge and bangs the wooden stick on the ground, breaking it into 2 pieces. He tells them that they should go somewhere quiet to discuss the further procedures, but instead they chose to close the matter, which was indeed a wise choice. The bald man wanted to crush that asshole's limbs, but he was very busy. Of course, he didn't have any work to do, but this served as a good excuse. They both wondered what was wrong with that priest. The other guy was sure that the priest belonged to some gang, and there are rumors about him leaving a trail of dead bodies behind him wherever he goes. Park Haein is busy chanting the Bible verse and acknowledging the Trinitarian formula. Yunsu and Yerim notice that their Unnai has been doing this for a while. The following moment, Father Michael enters the house and Haein welcomes him. Haein is being quite weird, but she was extremely happy to see him after a long time. She inquires about learning more about his training. Father Michael is a priest in their Catholic church, and he's like a parent to Haein. Meanwhile, some sisters visit them to thank the priest and deliver some Japanese apricot wine. Haein waits for him to react, and when he does, she finally understands that he doesn't know anything about her going out as a vampire. Wait a minute, there's no need to reach a conclusion so soon. The very next moment, Father Michael exclaimed that Haein and he needed to talk. Poor Haein is so dead. While waiting for Haein on the terrace, Father Michael spots some people from above, but they seem to hide as soon as he catches sight of them. When Haein comes up, they discuss about the vamp incident, and he knew that Haein was behind it. They argue about it fiercely, and Father Michael suggests that she shouldn't go out until this mess is cleared. Haein is in no mood to listen to him today. He then tells her that no matter how much one trains a beast, in people's eyes, they're nothing but a monster. For the past 10 years, they have been living in terror because of vampires. Everyone lived in fear, be they adults or children. They kept wondering if there was a vampire hiding in the shadows waiting for them. It was only a matter of time before those sick monsters sucked this world dry. People were ready to risk their lives and eradicate those monsters. Park Haein doesn't have any memories before she had arrived at the orphanage 10 years ago. There was one thing that she realized as she was discovering more about herself, that humans were a vast field of glaringly beautiful flowers, and this was a place that she could never belong to. Haein is scared to agree to the fact that maybe Father Michael was right. Perhaps it does not matter how hard she tries. To those people, she is only a monster that preys on humans. Haein knew that she didn't have friends to share memories with, and that she wouldn't be able to express her feelings if she fell in love. She would have to live with the constant fear of being exposed. But she just wants to be a human. It's a clear fact that it's really hard to be human nowadays. Park Haein decides to put her life on the line for it. At the Red Bomb Club, their clan has begun to look for a replacement after the death of Byung-soo. They warn the newcomer about the lions and explain that the lions are the 6 leaders that control the vampire clan of this country. They have overwhelming power that allows them to control countless beasts like vampires. To conclude, a single lion can destroy an entire city with one's power. Meanwhile, a man tries to barge into the club, and he demands to meet the lion. When the people at the club deny his request, she ignores their ass and forcefully gets in. When they try to stop him again, he punches both of them together. This guy won't leave without meeting the lion. The manager goes to Lu Sai-nim and asks him what they should do. For him, it sounds fun, and it looks like Lu Sai-nim can't wait to meet him. Here's the video ends. Guys, if you like this recap, then like the video. I will meet you in another video. Till then, bye.